I would like someone to talk about Deadpool 2, please.
Can I, sir? Can I?
Yes, you can.
Oh, thank you ever so much. Unless I'm trying to be funny, I try and avoid the usual movie review cliches, and sequels like Deadpool 2, The Deadpoolering, test this most greatly because, well, it's so very similar to the original in tone and content that the most useful and concise thing I can say about it is that if you like the original, you'll like this, and if you didn't, I don't see much in here to change your mind. But we have a contractually obligated running time to fill, so I suppose we better bulk this out a little bit.
Wait, I signed no such contract.
Deadpool 2 opens with a montage of what Ryan Reynolds' spandex-clad assassin Wade Wilson has been up to between films, which is, in the main, violently killing people. But they're bad people. Presumably, so that's all right. This rather bites him in the ass when, after one of his targets eludes him, said crime lord later visits Wade and fiancée Vanessa, Morena Baccarin's flat, with some goons and guns, killing Vanessa in the process before being dealt with. Distraught, Deadpool tries to kill himself, but his mutant healing factor refuses to let him go, with Colossus sweeping up the pieces and taking him back to Xavier's school for children that shoot lasers from their eyes and that. Deadpool agrees to join the X-Men, but this first mission goes off the rails when he realises that flame-spewing young mutant they've been sent to reason with, Julian Dennison's Russell Collins, was being abused by the orphanage's staff. He's restrained before he can kill more than one of the orphanage staff, with Deadpool and Russell slapped with power-nullifying collars and sent to mutant prison. Deadpool seems happy enough to be left to die, but Russell wants out and forges a bond with Wade Wilson, the world's worst father figure, and this is all thrown for a loop when Josh Brolin's Cable, my favourite Marvel vs. Capcom 2 character, appears from the future with an impressive selection of weaponry and a burning desire to kill the barely teenage Russell to stop some future misdeeds. Deadpool's protective instincts kick in, and Deadpool and Cable fight to a standstill, escaping the prison in the process, while Russell befriends unstoppable beat-headed Juggernaut, sadly not voiced here by Vinnie Jones. To shortcut the recap a bit, Deadpool and Cable form an uneasy alliance, Cable giving Deadpool a chance to turn Russell away from a life of murder and villainy, but they'll need to go through Juggernaut, with Deadpool enlisting the help of Colossus, Brianna Hildebrand's Negasonic teenage warhead, and Zazie Beetz' extraordinarily lucky Domino. Although maybe I shouldn't shortcut the recap too much, as there's really not an awful lot else to say about Deadpool 2, certainly that wasn't said about the first film. It's, again, largely based on, for this sort of film at least, outrageous jokes, violence treated for laughs, throwaway references and fourth wall breaking, and for some reason a running gag about dubstep. But as mentioned earlier, if you liked it before, I'm about 90% confident you'll like it this time round, and if you didn't, I'm 100% sure there's nothing here that will force a reconsideration. As Deadpool 2 is a very heavily comedy-skewed action comedy, there's not a lot more to be said about it, to be honest. If this is the sort of thing you'll find funny, you'll like it, and if not, you won't. So, like any comedy, it's entirely dependent on your particular comic tastes, so it's tough to say much more than if you think the trailer was funny, then you'll probably find the film funny. In terms of secondary considerations, the action sequences are, by comic book standards, executed as well as any of the other X-Men outings, which is to say, well enough, but on something of a restrained budget compared to the Marvel outings, and rather more coherent than the bulk of DC affairs, and it's not a film that's stretching anyone's acting capabilities, but Brolin's commendably gruff and plays a decent straight man to Reynolds' capering fool, and both Brianna Hildebrand and Zazie Beetz' more laid-back turns provide a satisfying counterpoint. Julian Dennison is also quite empathetic and carries the emotional heart of the film, or what passes for one, quite well. There's the usual complaints raised about the whiteness and maleness of the film, which may have some validity, but in a film this stupid, it's hard to take it seriously. I do, however, take some exception to killing off Vanessa as character motivation, not purely because it's the sort of lazy writing that this film itself tries to lampoon, but because she was one of the most interesting characters in the first film. I see some complaints remain about Karan Soni's Dopinder, the heavily accented taxi driver, and if that's all you reduce the character to, I suppose I concede the point, but I'd argue if you listen to what he's actually saying, then he's quite far from any of the stereotypes, but again, in a film as dumb as this one, it's not a hill I'm choosing to die on. So where do we land after all this? As I've said repeatedly, well, personally, I found it quite funny, so I enjoyed it. There you go. That said, even having enjoyed it, I think this is quite enough of Deadpool, thank you so very much, and the prospect of another film following this game plan so closely is not one that I would welcome at all.
Okay then, I'm going to give you two options. You can have both if you wish, and one follow the other, but you can have the usual unnecessarily verbose me in response to this, or you can have an unusually taciturn me. I'll give you the unusually taciturn one first, and you can tell me if you want more after that.
Go on then.
Okay. This film bored my tits off.
Hashtag make Drew's tits great again.
No, I'm trying to lose weight, Craig. Don't, the opposite of that, please.
So you're saying as you went on the Deadpool diet. Well, give us a long version then.
Okay, the long version is just really bored with this stuff. Yeah, I didn't particularly care for the first film, but I did watch it again last week before I went to see this, and I thought, it's okay. It had gone from being like a 2 out of 3, a 2 out of 5 film to a 3 out of 5 film, something like that. I had a bit more appreciation for the second time round. This film, though, I perhaps chuckled very, very slightly about 6 times in the whole 2 hours. That's not an exaggeration in any way, shape or form. And I was just so bored. I didn't care about anyone or anything. And with the exception of the woman who plays Domino, I honestly didn't think that a single person in this film had even the slightest hint of charisma. None at all. I was particularly disappointed by Josh Brolin, who I like a lot, and he was like, oh, he is the gruff man. And then there's this CGI man and the other CGI man who isn't Vinnie Jones, and that was the one upside I could find for the entire film, was that Vinnie Jones wasn't in it. I thought the kid was incredibly unlikable, and I didn't care about him at all. Yeah, you're not even getting the unnecessarily verbose normal me. I didn't care about a single person. It really bored me. It's not funny. It wasn't necessary. Ryan Reynolds is terrible. And yeah, it's crap. Don't watch it.
I really enjoyed the first movie, although by the end of its running time I had the feeling it was beginning to outstay its welcome, and I've never felt the need to go back and watch it again, and I don't necessarily think I want any more.
Yeah, I'm definitely of that.
And I don't care whether or not Vinnie Jones is in it. I think your mileage will vary depending upon your, like you say, your sense of humour. You know exactly what Ryan Reynolds' shtick is, and he's been allowed to bring his shtick wholesale to the character of Deadpool in movie form. So yes, if you find Ryan Reynolds intolerable, despite the fact in the first movie, you see very little of Ryan Reynolds, you're probably not going to enjoy it. But enough people, judging by the box office, seem to enjoy Ryan Reynolds' shtick now. Although I don't know what's different about his shtick now compared to all the other shtick that didn't make money at the box office for years. But yeah. So I managed to say a lot without saying anything there. Go me.
Go to politics.
Nothing to lose.
Well, just your dignity, self-respect.
I'm impressed you feel I have any left. Thank you.
I'm an optimist, Craig. I'm an optimist.
Since when?
No, listen to our most recent podcast. I even found...
I'll give the podcast a listen to.
That's our one about homes, our podcast. But,
yes.
Yeah, I am a secret optimist. I try to find something good in things that are otherwise bad.
Cool.
Not that I'm suggesting you're otherwise bad.
No, that's all right. Ah, dear. That's that then.